Greetings to all class 9 students. Today we all took one live session, but I feel there was a lot of voice distortion, so I decided to make a video for you all to learn so that everybody can learn at their own pace, right? So along with the live videos, the live streaming chat, I'll also make videos so that you can learn at your own time, okay? And then there is no disturbance also. Right. We were talking about today Iswaran the storyteller. Uh, as it seems, he is blessed with the art of storytelling. So, what is basically a storytelling? It is an art of using language, using your vocalization, that is your voice modulation, and the physical movement, that is your gestures, to reveal the element and the images of the story to your audience, perhaps a very specific audience. And why do we use storytelling? See, if you want to teach young kids something very quickly, what do we use? Mothers usually use the storytelling, isn't it? But being an exceptionally good storyteller is a blessing. Here, the protagonist Iswaran is blessed with this art. See how he tells a story, that we have to find out after learning about him. Okay, so let us start without much ado. I'm here on page number 12. I want you all to keep your book in front of you so that it makes it easy while you're watching the video. You should keep one pencil in your hand and the textbook, so you can mark down and note down the hard content words, and you can also underline the important notes. Right, let's start. Chapter 3, Iswaran the storyteller. Right, one night Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. Was it a ghost? Okay, this is the effect of, I think, Ishwaran's storytelling. See, Mahendra, his master, loves to listen to a lot of stories from his servant Ishwaran. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man, Mahendra, by name. He was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various types of construction sites. What type of sites were they? Factories, bridges, dams, and so on. What was Mahendra's job then? His job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then as ordered by his head office. From a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site, from there, after a few months, again to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere else. So, this was the nature of job for Mahendra. He was a traveling construction site supervisor. So, wherever he was posted and was asked by his head in charges, he would have to go. So, he never had a permanent residence, I think. And he always carried a servant with him who could carry his things, who could cook for him, do the daily chores, washing clothes. Yes. But apart from doing all these things, Ishwaran also had a very good ability to tell stories. So that means it could keep Mahendra entertained. Perhaps he never needed a TV or internet, or perhaps it was just not there in his time. So, how one could keep himself entertained is through storytelling. And Mahendra at that time was no exception. Right, he was a bachelor. His needs were very simple and he was able to adjust himself to all kinds of odd conditions, whether it was an ill equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of a stone quarry. You see, what is a quarry? Quarry is a mine from where material is extracted. Okay. But one asset he had was his cook. From here you have to underline next three lines. Why does he say here that my servant is an asset to me? Asset is something which is very valuable and you don't want to let it go off. You can't afford to let it go off. That means that's your asset, something like a property. Why does he say that he was his property? What is so special about him? Iswaran, namely. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. This is the first reason, because he never moaned about anything, he never complained about anything to his master. Wherever he went, with whatever belongings, he always followed him. He cooked for Mahendra. Another thing, washed his clothes. Third, and chatted away with his master at night. Number 4. He could weave out endless stories and anecdotes on varied subjects. So this is one of the most amazing things that he possessed in his personality. That was weaving. That means making, fabricating stories out of nowhere. Anecdotes means those short, small, amusing stories, right? So he has this ability of making stories from any situation, just there and then. He cooked for him, he washed his clothes, and he did all the daily chores for him. So that's why Mahendran says that he is not only a servant but like an asset for me, which I cannot let go of. Okay. Iswaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of a desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around. Okay, this is another quality of his personality, that with the minimal amount of presence of vegetables, he could really make out those tasty and mouth-watering, luscious curries for Mahendra. Even for making special dishes, he did not require special ingredients. He could just make them with whatever was available. That is another good culinary skill of him. Right, desolate, that means barren land. You see, something like a desert. A lone land. Right. He would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. So traveling was also not a problem for Iswaran. He always was there with Mahendra wherever he went, and just after arriving within an hour, anywhere that they have to put up their tent, he would start cooking and would finish and would make those tasty dishes for him. Yes, conjure up, that means create. Alright. Okay. Mahendra would be up early in the morning and leave for work after breakfast. So, carrying some prepared food with him. So, what would Iswaran do once Mahendra leaves? Meanwhile, Iswaran would tidy up the shed, wash the clothes, and have a leisurely bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunchtime by then. It seems Iswaran loved to bathe himself. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. So he doesn't want to miss out on his afternoon siesta. He had to have a nap for some time. The book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running to hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions and the narrative flourishes would hold Ishwaran in thrall. You see, in thrall, that means under someone's spell, as if making someone, engross. So now perhaps you can think, see, storytelling is influenced by reading. Those who are good readers, their writing comes out beautifully, and also their talking comes out, their speech comes out beautifully. So you see, reading affects, it has its own influence both on speaking and writing. You see, and he had this habit of reading a lot. I think this is written by R.K. Narayana. So, sorry, R.K. Lakshmana, one of Tamil political cartoonist of his time. If you remember, in the Times of India, the small snippet comes, the small strip comes of those political leaders, the cartoons that were all created by R.K. Lakshman, his R.K. Narayan's brother. So this story also has a sort of, southern Indian background. So when we talk about Iswaran, Iswaran loved to read the Tamil books, the thrillers, and then because he was a good reader, the way he used to tell the stories to Mahendra, they were all influenced. He always used his reading, his learning from the Tamil books to tell the stories. You see, he could weave the stories from almost anything. Right. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he read. As I was talking about the same thing, your oratory skills, your speech, your storytelling art is actually influenced by your reading, because once you start telling the stories, all the episodes of what you have to tell others, to your audience, come in line, they all fall in line from what you have read. Right. When he was narrating even the smallest of incidents, he would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into the account. This is one of a big characteristics of good storytellers. What they would do, they would start on a note of suspense or something which is secretive, something that is mysterious, only and only to rouse the curiosity in the audience's mind. Yes, that is true. An audience actually loves such stories and such content. For an example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say how. See, he would use his gesticulation. What he would do, he would put his eyebrows up in an arched manner and hands held out in a dramatic gestures, you see. And he would say what? The road was deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. Right, this is his way of telling story. I was half inclined to turn and go back. Inclined, that means as soon as I saw that bushy beast, I wanted to go back, change the direction. But as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree, with its dry branches spread out. And Mahendra would stretch himself back in his canvas chair and listen to Ishwaran's tales uncritically. Uncritically, that means so quietly and so seriously, as if his way of telling a story is the story comes alive. What does he do? Ishwaran's storytelling art creates word pictures. So whatever he says, if you keep your eyes closed and listen to what he says, you'll feel that it is happening before your eyes, you see. He makes the story coming alive, and the story doesn't remain a story. The story becomes a picture. in front of your eye, right? So this was his skill. He always knew how to present the simplest thought in a creative manner. Okay, children, we keep the chapter up to here. In the next video, we are going to talk about the episode of maddened elephant and the destruction, the depredations, the havoc created by him, right? Till then, you keep learning, and I shall see you again on Tuesday.